Okay, hello, good evening, and thank you so much for tuning in. It's Simon, the Ranting Revolutionary, here again. I'd like to apologize firstly for the fact that I haven't been online recently. There are two main reasons for this. The first being that I've been running backwards and forwards from the hospital for MRI scans and other health issues. Um, I'm so pleased to tell you that I am alive and kicking, and just for the record, I am one of the unjabbed. The second reason was somewhat logistical, since my last podcast concerning 0 point energy, that's energy that is completely free, non polluting, with no side effects whatsoever, and limitless, my laptop was vandalized. Now, as you can see, I should have superior sound and image thanks to the donation of certain of my viewers, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for your assistance in being able to carry on with this channel. So the first thing in the description is my PayPal link, so any donations, no matter how great or small, in order to help me continue bringing you vital information concerning our birthright and our human rights, then please do not hesitate. Everything will be most welcome indeed. So, uh, my forthcoming podcasts will be about the extraterrestrial presence, will be about 0 point energy, will be about how this can be applied to farming, to medicine, to everything that is very, very important and everything that is currently under attack by the powers that were. I'm very pleased to say that I'm not alone. In England, we have something called the People's Food and Farming Alliance, and I sincerely hope in the States you'll be starting up something very similar soon. I know that the food depots in the States and the distribution network in the States is currently under attack, and that there's even a website showing you where these peculiar fires break out. And speaking of fires, the fire in Texas, the Panhandle area near the town of Amarillo, is the beef capital of the United States with 13 million head of cattle, and that all these fires with untold acreage, I do have the stats, I will get back to you on the stats on that, is a direct attack on the meat industry there. And it's very interesting because there is a smart city plan, or what we English call a 15-minute city plan there, for some peculiar reason, and it links in with the same 15-minute city plan in Lahaina, Hawaii. And if you don't know about this, then please do see the channel Brush Junkie with Tracy, who's done fantastic work on this, as has Mr. West of Real Estate. And then there's the fire in Peru, which also, interestingly enough, is in a city that is earmarked for a smart city. So this is very political. So let's just, I'm just going to mention a couple of things about ET very briefly, because tomorrow I'll be doing a much more researched and longer podcast. But Stephen Greer has absolute proof that since, Dr. Stephen Greer that is, that since October 1954, ET alien aircraft have been reverse engineered, and we do have anti-gravity technology. Now, this is a byproduct of 0 point energy. So anti-gravity technology is awfully useful in that you don't have to burn rubber. You're not burning any other pollutants either with 0 point energy, and it also means takeoff and landings are a lot more comfortable than standard aircraft. But standard aircraft can be adapted to use this, and instead of taking off in the normal way and landing in the normal way, you'll be able to do it gently and vertically, and you won't have your ears popping in flight either at 30,000 feet, because with 0 point energy you can also fix the G's and the pressure in the cabin far more easily than bleeding pressure of jet engines. Okay, so that's October 1954, Dr. Stephen Greer. Now, the other thing is the monopoly of both state and private corporations on this technology. There is a book by the deceased Lt.Col Philip J. Corso called The Day After Roswell, and it was his job to distribute the technology to the corporations so that the US military could obviously have the leading edge on the enemy, and then give US corporations the leading edge on worldwide competition. Now, it sadly has got out of hand, and these corporations are now behaving like sovereign states and doing exactly as they wish. And they even apparently have their own armed forces, and they have even accidentally killed US servicemen in what can be very euphemistically described as friendly fire. So, the other thing that's going to be a bit of a wake up for a lot of people is that they have been with us for a very long time. We're looking at well over 200,000 years. We have their DNA, they have our DNA, and in fact the only living creature on planet Earth who seems to be in a class of his own is the dear old octopus, who has 700 lines of DNA code all to himself, no other ancestor or cousin. He's not related to the squids, he's not related to anybody else. He also has the actual largest brain to body size ratio of any other living creature on the planet. And the only reason we are not under the dictatorship of octopuses is because they have a 7-year lifespan. If the predators don't get him, then he just simply has a nice peaceful death after 7 years. Alright, now everybody knows they're here, everybody knows that they've been in touch with us. The one good thing about the congressional hearings, although they were incredibly limited, was the fact that we had wonderful evidence from the most credible witnesses. This was under oath in Congress, a full congressional hearing, although it was, as I say, very limited. Now, there was meant to be legislation, only 64 pages long, which is quite short for a bill, making it obligatory for anything over 25 years old to be released to the public and put in the congressional library so that everybody could consult this. Now, the irony of it is that this patent exists. As I said in my last podcast, the patent for zero-point energy and some of its applications are, the author is Salvador Cesar Pais, the owner is the US Navy. You can look it up on any search engine. It's free to use, as is the working model. Now, working models have been in existence for a long time, and I will, in my future podcasts, quote witness statements and also all sorts of other proof that there are even trade fairs where these objects have been on sale. Not for hire, not for lease, not just take a picture, but you can actually buy one. Okay, we do have to have full democratic surveillance over what these large corporations are doing. They cannot be allowed to behave like sovereign states, especially as when you allow them to do so, they behave like the mafia. I repeat, they do behave like the mafia. Now, if you put yourself in the position of these large corporations, they already receive, and have done ever since their existence, research and development grants on the grounds that this is good for national security and all the rest of it. Then they receive the ET material, which they're allowed to exploit as they so wish, and all they have to do is transfer the technology back to the US government for its military use. They then can exploit it commercially. Now, we do have the Bill of Rights, we have the Constitution, and this applies to both sides of the Atlantic, although the Bill of Rights is written differently our side, it's also written sooner than your side. We also have anti-monopoly laws in this country which aren't being applied properly, otherwise we wouldn't be in this cost of living crisis. is one of the contributing factors. There's also anti-racketeering laws in the States, which Dr. Stephen Greer has been reminding us of very gently and politely. And I have to admire him because he's been on this actively for over 30 years, speaking to the world's top people and getting strictly nowhere. So everything to bring about change does have to be organic. I think the people who brought this last congressional hearing forward should be congratulated. Yes, the bill was scuppered at the last moment. It means now that once again, on the grounds of national security, they can basically censor anything they so please, and we're back to square one. So we're simply going to have to work out another way to go about it. But we simply do have to stand firm and not give ground on this. This is our birthright, it's our constitutional rights, and given the way the world is going, we have to take away these destructive toys from these total psychopaths pretending to run the country, or even the world. And when certain people advise certain governments to do lab-grown meat and all the rest of it, they're just out of their depth. They don't know what they're doing. Now, we've been lied to so many times recently. We could start with the fact that it was treasonous to speak out against participating in the First World War in Canada. It's a total lie. The First World War was a squabble between royals that were being allowed to get completely out of hand and out of control. And Canada had no right being in the First World War. It was none of their business. And the best thing to stop the First World War was simply cut off funding. So let's look at some more recent lies. 9/11, total lie, everybody knew this. Then we had the Iraq War, which was a lie. Afghanistan was a lie. Vietnam was a total lie. And the Tonkin incident of 1964 was a total lie. And then the latest was the pandemic, if that wasn't a lie. If you look up coronavirus in a dictionary, it tells you it's a cold. The most dangerous thing about that pandemic was the vaccines, as we're now finding out, and everybody is trying to double back. So once again, we have to do sensible things like get out of who. As for forthcoming elections, we have to absolutely insist that no politician standing for any election, either side of the Atlantic or in Europe, has any connections, directly or indirectly, with the World Economic Forum, with the United Nations, with the World Health Organization. They have all been totally corrupted. Now, we're not going to eat bugs and we're not going to eat lab-grown meat. Italy should be congratulated because they were one of the first countries to say not only is the manufacturer, not only is the manufacture of lab-grown meat illegal, but so is the sale of this muck. So, bravo, grazie finime, Italia. Now, basically our democracy is a hologram, and we have to bring back to democracy something called reality. And the only way we're going to do it is sticking together. Now, tomorrow's podcast is going to be longer and more detailed. I've got to do a little shopping. I've got to cook my turkey tomorrow. And then after I've done that, I'm going to go and have a really good old detailed rant, starting at Z and working backwards, or even starting from the middle and working out both ways. But we're going to cover everything possible. I don't think we need any more legislation. All we have to do is apply the legislation that exists properly. And as for distractions about hate speech and how that is also being manipulated, if we look at what's happening in Canada, we know that it's not going to happen. They tried it in Ireland, it didn't work, and they're going to try it in Scotland shortly and in Britain afterwards, and it's not going to work, right? It's like, you can say no as long as you say no to the right things. Forget it, right? It's hegemony, and it's so basic and so simple and so puerile that we just can't take it anymore, and we are going to take control, because these powers that were have behaved so destructively towards their own. Okay, so on that positive note, especially still being alive and kicking and being able to broadcast again, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. I look forward to seeing you all sometime over the weekend. And please do like, comment, share. All that's awfully useful for my YouTube algorithm, as well as the Rumble one and the Patreon one as well. And please do comment. I am interested in your comments. And I'd like to thank you once again for your time and attention. And please do keep spreading the good word and fighting the good fight. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.